I got a new toy this week. Come to think of it, are there any weeks when I don't have a new toy? Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is vlog number 55 for Monday, January the 29th, 2018. Boy, almost the end of the month, and this month's gone by really, really fast. Good. But anyways, so what have I been up to? Oh, yeah, forgot to grab something right off the bat. Give me a moment. I'm just going to take my microphone off. I'll be right back. Admire what's behind me. Okay, I'm just going to put my microphone back on here so you can hear me. Okay, latest project. This started out as a placemat, and now it's become a quilt. The center section was supposed to be a placemat, but I was kind of not following any directions for this except for the patterning, and I didn't really get it the right dimensions, and I got thinking, why not use up some of my scraps? And so that's what I've been doing. The design is basically mine. I wasn't following a pattern, and I was even getting a little fancy here with some of the stitching along the side rows. Hard to see in the video, I know, but that's with the decorative stitches on my new sewing machine. So it's almost finished quilting it. I have the outside border to do yet, and then I've got to square it up, get rid of my loose threads, and make my binding and get that put on there. So yeah, my second effort at a quilt. I'm still not doing free motion quilting yet. In fact, I thought I might do free motion quilting on this one, but I think that's going to take some practice. So I'm just doing stitch in the ditch. I'm trying to get back up here on my stool. I'm just doing stitch in the ditch, which is between the seams, and I've made my thread length a little longer this time, so it'll be a little bit more puffy, quilty looking. At least that's what I'm hoping. And yeah, so great way to use up your scraps. Didn't take me long. I mean, it's only a lap quilt. It's not a full-size one yet. But with each one that I make, I learn something new. And so there it is. And I'm proud of this one too, so far. I'm also very proud of my Bland bag. This is my own design. I built it. That's a man's way of talking about sewing, I guess. Building. I built this bag. I sewed this bag and designed this bag to carry my sewing essentials when I go off for my first class when we come back from Australia. And you can see it is called a Bland bag. And I used my Cricut Maker to cut that on ironable foil. And I put it on both sides. And it's a designer bag. Of course, this material you have seen before. This is the material that came from one of my digitalized art journal. Jeez, find the words this morning. The art journal, an art journal page that I digitalized, sent to Spoonflower. They made me 4 yards of this material. In fact, the backing on this quilt is all of this material. See if you're, I don't know if you can. I'm in an awkward position. Let me get down to show you this. So there it is all on the back. The reason I used it on the back is because I didn't have enough of any other fabric for backing, and I didn't really feel like piecing stuff together, although I could have done it. So I'm going to order more of that material as well, and I'm going to send some other digital designed pieces from my art journal, and I'm going to order fat quarters, because you can do that with this company, and I'm going to use those to make a quilt that is all made from my own art journal pages that have been made into fabric. So that's what this part is. This was some material that I had laying around. Just sewed it on, but I made pockets. I have 3 pockets on the front and on the back, if you can see it here. And those will hold scissors and rulers and things like that. I didn't line this bag, although I was watching a video yesterday that showed a fairly simple and straightforward way for putting a lining in a bag, which is good. I got my square bottoms. I've got that figured out now. And I do need to put an insert down in here though. This will keep the bag upright. I know you can't see that, but it'll keep it upright. That was suggested to me by one of the ladies at the sewing store. And so I think I will do that because I think that would be convenient. I just got to get some foam core, and that's not too bad. I may not get this done before we go to Australia. But anyways, bland bag. Look for them in a store coming to you. They'll be right next to the Gucci's and the Louis Vuittons. In my dreams. Yeah. Okay, so what else? Oh, well, I needed a place to sew. Now here's what I was using. My craft room is already, as you know, full of stuff. And I have several different work areas, but really when you're sewing, you need a big area to cut your material. What I was doing was pulling out a couple of collapsible tables, putting them together, put my sewing machine on that, putting my cutting board on top of that, putting my ironing, portable ironing board on top of that, and setting it all up as a sewing area. The problem with that was it didn't give me a lot of room to get around in my craft room. So if I was doing a project, I either had to take it down when I was finished for the day and put everything away, or leave it up, and it was getting in the way. So I thought, this is not ideal. If I'm spending half of my time cleaning up and putting up, then I need some other place to work. So I went into the annex. You know, the annex is my fancy name for the room where I have my exercise equipment and my leftover scrapbooking kits and projects and papers and things like that. And I actually did a video about that some time ago. So I just did some rearranging in that room, put down another table or two, was able to clean off a spot, and now I have a more permanent setup for my sewing area. And if I want to leave everything out, I can. I just shut the door. No one needs to see in there. So that's working out much better. And of course my serger is sitting there, my old sewing machine is sitting there as well, so everything is within arm's reach. I bought some plastic cabinets to put underneath the tables, so I have all my sewing notions and things right at my fingertips. So this is working out okay. Ideally, a whole room with a huge work table would be great. I sort of suggested that we collapse the guest bedroom, but Walter did not go for that. We never have guests staying over anyways. I mean, if you want to get really fancy, get one of those beds that folds up into the wall kind of a thing, and you know, and create a collapsible work table that if you had to have overnight guests, you could just collapse the work table, pull down the bed from the wall, bang, it's a guest room. He still didn't go for that idea. I'm still thinking about it though. Never say never. Okay, so I'm going to insert right here just a short little clip to show you my sewing room. Don't get too excited, it's not that pretty. So this week I set up an area that's now become my sewing room. This area was formerly known as the annex, which I showed you in a video way back, where I keep all my overstock of scrapbooking supplies, and it is also my exercise room, as you can see. So I was able to set up some tables in here and clean up a few things. Don't look under there, that's massive storage, to set up my sewing machine. And I have my cutting mat as well and my iron. So I've got lots of room to cut my fabric for quilts and lots of room for spreading out with the quilts as well. This is a little better than what I had in my craft room, because in my craft room, I had to, if I was going to do anything that was on a large scale, I had to move some tables into my craft room and set everything up, and then I had to clean it up because I can't leave it there permanently. So this way I can have everything set up, I can have a project on the go in here, and I can simply shut the door and the mess is out of sight. I bought a couple of plastic drawer containers that fit under here, and this is where I keep some of my sewing supplies. And this cabinet I already had in here, and I cleaned out the top drawer, but I think I'm going to have to clean out the next drawer as well, because this is where I'm going to put my material and things. I've got my old sewing machine and my serger at the back. They're easy enough to grab a hold of, pull forward if I ever want to use them for a future project. So yeah, we'll see how this works out. Freed up a little bit of space in my craft room as well, where I could move a couple of things around, and eventually it gave me more space on my craft bench as well. So, you know, one thing leads to another. I've got to get a bigger house. Okay, so you can see that's my sewing room. It's a little cramped, but it's better than what I had. All right, let's move on to YouTube channel of the week. And this is a really interesting channel, as you're going to find. It's called Mixed Media Girl. So just watch this. This week's YouTube channel is one called Mixed Media Girl. On her channel, she does an awful lot of experiments using acrylic paints. If you're into acrylic pouring, you're going to love this. But it's even goes beyond just basic acrylic pouring. She pours paint through different items. For example, a colander, and creates these spectacular displays and canvases. So if you're really interested in acrylic pouring and you're really interested in experimenting with acrylic paints, then I highly recommend you check out Mixed Media Girl. So as I said, I find that YouTube channel kind of inspiring because it's very creative and it's a little off the wall as well. So speaking of off the wall, it's now time for our person of interest. I don't know why I said that was off the wall. It's no reflection here on who I am featuring this week. Anita is our person of interest this week. Anita sent me a couple of very detailed emails telling me about her projects, her life, and things like that. I found it all very interesting. And she sent me some pictures as well. So I've put those all together into a little video clip so you can meet Anita. So the person of interest this week is Anita, who is on as Cherry A19. And she writes, "Here are my answers to the questions you asked for our group. My name is Anita and I'm 59 years old. I have been married to my husband Keith for 26 years. I have 2 sons from a previous marriage, ages 32 and 29. My oldest is now a major in the USAF and is currently serving in South Korea for 1 year until July 2018. I'm very nervous about that, as you can imagine. My youngest is interested in music and sound engineering. I am a nurse who worked for years in long-term care and I left that about 5 years ago. I also worked pediatrics and did some volunteer work with hospice in a summer camp for kids who had lost a loved one. I knew I could help as I lost my own mother when I was 2.5 years old. I designed a pizza box collage and mixed media journal. One young man, about 13, had lost his dad to colon cancer, and on the last day of camp he shared that he was keeping his dad's wallet and watch in his box. My heart melted. He was such a neat kid. I have, as long as I can remember, been interested in creative things. I was raised by my grandmother and at an early age learned from my elders things like sewing, knitting, crocheting, needlepoint. I did not have anything growing up but Crayola crayons, but I love them. I got into doing watercolor about 15 years ago and I became very interested in art journaling about 8 years ago. Online I have followed Paula Phillips, Dee Dee Willingham, Barb Owen, and Kyla Givehands. I have been able to take workshops with Mary Beth Shaw, Carolyn Duby, Trish McKinney, Glenda Miles, and Rosie Hart. A good friend of mine asked a group of us to do an art piece for the CBS Sunday morning show. They show sun art between the stories. My first one ever got shown, okay, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. The first one ever got shown, and they have shown it many times. When it flashes on the screen, it is just for a few seconds, but they also picked that one as their Facebook art for a week, and that had my name on it. Wow, that was fun. I've had 3 of mine shown to date. I love it all. I like to read, I journal, visit with friends at our local coffee shop, follow art videos on YouTube. We had a new concert venue built in our area, and this past summer we attended a concert a month from May to September. We are enjoying our empty nest. I love the online community. Even though I like to do creative things, I'm not very confident at times in my abilities. Seeing and sharing with others helps me very much. I really would just like to do art this year. I could read and watch videos till the cows come home, but sometimes just getting started on my own is hard. I would very much like to start a blog this year. I'm not sure I could do a vlog, laugh out loud. I'm looking forward to the coming year and getting to know you all. Sending some pictures in a separate email, and those are the pictures that you've been watching while I read Anita's email. So thank you, Anita, for all of that. You sound like you have a very interesting life, a very interesting family, and I love your creativity, and I hope everybody else appreciates it as well. So thanks, Anita, for being our person of interest for this week. And Anita sent me some more information later in the week, and I'd like to read it to you because it is very, very interesting. She says, "Hi Stephen and Walter, I just finished watching your vlog for Monday, January the 22nd, 2018. Love that you're including us in your vlogs, and I will be checking out all of the people you have mentioned. Wow, what creative and talented people." Anywho, it got me to thinking that I really also want to tell you about the little town where I live in Ohio. I live in a suburb of Dayton, Ohio. Dayton is the birthplace of aviation, as we call it, due to the Wright brothers. Locally, we have a rich history of aviation and industry. Dayton also was the home of National Cash Register, also known as NCR, and also several General Motors factories. Sadly, those industries are no longer with us. We also have the USAF Museum and Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and if you like history, the flood of 1913 was something else. This brings me to Tipp City, Ohio, located just about 14 miles from Dayton. Tipp was originally called Tippecanoe from the political campaign of William Henry Harrison with his saying, "Tippecanoe and Tyler too." We even have an eatery called Harrison's located across the street from Tyler's A-Shop. It was founded in 1840 and was originally a stagecoach town and then a canal lock stopover. As industry grew and interstate systems developed, our 175 connects Dayton to Columbus and Cincinnati. I think that's I-75. The town grew to connect with Dayton. I live in the oldest section of Tipp City. We have the usual just off the interstate section and new housing developments and then older historic section. I live in this area of town. Our main downtown is only about 3 blocks with shops, eateries, coffee shops, antiques, library, and churches. It's a real walking type of neighborhood. I live 5 blocks from Main Street, but right next door to the city park with lots of old trees. In good weather, I walk downtown every morning for coffee, and yes, sometimes breakfast at Sam and Ethel's, and yes, everybody knows your name. It sounds like a really nice little town. I'm thinking about all this because for many years, I was working full-time, raising a family, and going back to school to become a nurse. I've always worked the second shift, so in the mornings I took care of family things as laundry and cooking and then went to work. As my dad and stepmom got older, I had health issues. I helped with that too. I always had a creative side to me, but sometimes there just was not time. Which finally brings me to my journey today. I credit the internet with keeping my creative spirit fed. It has really opened up so many ways for people to learn and connect. I have learned about art forms and styles that I would have never imagined. I am online friends with people all over the world. After I left my nursing job, I decided to venture out and started taking workshops from artists that came to Ohio. I also discovered YouTube and Ustream. I actually got to meet Dee Dee Willingham at her home in Georgia as we visited my son stationed in Georgia. What a memory and thrill. Somehow I found Stephen's YouTube channel and I've been following for a year. I need the internet community of creative people in my life. If you are someone who loves mixed media, you don't always find things locally to attend or learn from. I am today creating the life I want to live at this stage of my life. God bless the young people who are taking risks and doing just that same thing today. I have recently become part of a little group who will have things to sell in one of the shops in town. Yes, I am a little nervous about that, but I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm also part of a new group that will be forming on writing. I think probably just as a support network, and I mainly like to journal and write poetry. I love words and art together. I hope to really do more watercolor and mixed media work this year, and I do not have an online presence, so a blog I want to start for sure. I have a lot of tech things I need to learn, and the more vlogs I watch, I start to think, hey, maybe I could do that too. And yes, you can. Anybody can do a vlog. It is very, very easy and neat, so don't let the technology intimidate you. Well, sorry this was so long, but just want to share. I appreciate what you're doing and the work you are putting into your vlogs. Sorry about that. That was my email going off. Who knows? Maybe one day I will get to visit Canada. Sincerely, Anita. And I hope you do. And Anita, if you do come up to my end of the world, please don't hesitate to give me a call or let me know you're coming. I'll show you a really good time and take you around to some of the craft stores in our area. Thanks, Anita, for that additional information. It really fills in some gaps for us all. And I think now we have a really good understanding of who you are. And if you'd like to be a person of interest, all you need to do is answer the 3 prompting questions that I've put in the links below. And you can go beyond those questions. You can tell me as much as you want. You can tell me as little as you want. If you've got pictures of some of your projects or other interesting pictures that you can send to me as well, or if you can give me a link to a blog or a vlog or a YouTube channel that you're involved with, that would be great. And I'll put together a little montage of your pictures and talk about you. I think we're getting to know each other very, very well. So please don't be shy. I've said it before. Everybody is important. Everybody has a story. Don't ever underestimate yourself, okay? Here's a moment for you to get those 15 minutes of fame or less, okay? So now just one word about person of interest. Please send that stuff to me at any time. But as you know, I am going on an extended vacation to Australia for about 5 weeks, so I probably won't be able to do a person of interest during that time, mainly because I'm not going to have as much technology with me or as available as I do here at home. Now, having said that, I am taking my iPads, my iPhone, my microphone, and a few other bits and pieces as well, because I do intend to send some videos out while we're on the trip, and more about that in a bit. But please send me whatever you have about yourself. What I do is I organize that material. It's on a first come, first served basis, so in the order that they come to me, that's the order they will appear in future vlogs as well. And I think it's kind of neat to be able to, you know, share details about each other. All right, so let's move on to my resource links all below. I have the link to this week's Stephen and Walter. Stephen and Walter this week, I don't know, I was a little off my game, I felt. Maybe because I've got some things I'm a little worried about in preparation for this trip and whatnot. And actually, I'm going to talk about my biggest worry in a moment with that. So I'm sorry it lacked a little luster. Maybe you think they all lack luster. I don't know. But yeah, so Stephen and Walter live. We are going to try to do some short ones when we're over in Australia. Now, it's all going to depend on the technology there. It's going to depend on our connection, how we do that. We've got a few ideas that we want to try. We might buy some prepaid SIM cards kind of a thing so we can actually use our phones while we're there. We're playing with different ideas, and we'll see how that all works out. So things could be a little erratic with Stephen and Walter live. And they definitely, if we do make the connection and we are able to go live, we won't be doing them for an hour and a half like our usual Sunday Stephen and Walter lives. And they won't necessarily be on Sundays at 4 o'clock. Since we're going to be in a totally different time zone. Oops. Okay, my quilt is falling off the wall. Anyways, there, you get a good shot of the back of it. So heaven only knows what's going to happen with those, but they may be erratic. Well, they will be erratic when we get them. I'm going to post videos if I can of some of the places we see along on the way, things like that. So I don't know. When you're using technology, when you depend on it most, that's when it lets you down. So we'll see what happens. What else have I got in the list below? I've got my whatever number 2, how I make my vlogs, and I think many of you have already seen that. And there's also a third one there too about the evolution of the bland bag, and I'm putting the links below with that. And I just noticed that I left that out of my notes, so I'm just making a note to add that. And a couple of other things. I got Mixed Media Girls link to her YouTube channel below. The book, Creative Foundations by Vicki Boutin. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes in that segment that I'm now doing about reviewing some of the books I find on my shelf. So a link is down there for that. And for a new product that I just got, which is the We Are Memory Keepers Square Punch Board, which I'm going to talk about. And I also did a product review video about that. So that link to the product review video is below as well. So lots of links there. Okay, so that takes us to what's pissing me off this week. I'm just making a note here. I have to make notes because when I go and you would see this in my whatever vlog talking about the back, how I do my vlogs. I have a sheet of paper in front of me that's my outline, but it never fails. I always miss something and I have to add it to this sheet before I do the final version of this vlog when it hits the airwaves. Oh yeah, one other thing before I forget. This coming weekend, Mike Deacon will do his February Mission Inspiration, and I believe that's the one where he asked me to be the guest agent and to provide the prompts. Now, I haven't been talking to Mike since, or in a while about that, but that was when he did mention he was going to schedule it. So whether or not he's sticking to that, I don't know for sure. But regardless of when that comes out, I will be posting later this week an art journal page I did based on the prompts that I provided Mike with for Mission Inspiration. I've had this video done for a while. I made it way before Christmas, right after Mike asked me to be part of this. And I was so excited about being asked by Mike to do one of the Mission Inspirations videos that I immediately went right to work with it. So it's been sitting there, it's on my computer. I just need to upload it. Now, I know you can schedule videos to come on. You can upload them to YouTube and schedule them for whenever you want them to go live. But the problem there is I think there's a restriction of 24 hours on it. I'm not absolutely sure about that. I'm not even absolutely sure why I think that. I think I saw something on a YouTube video about that. So at the risk that it doesn't get posted, come the tail end of this week, I will put it up and post it. And if it's ahead of Mike's Mission Inspiration, it's not really going to affect what he does, but it'll be there. So you'll see if you're getting the notifications, if you click on the bell, then you know that you'll know when it's up. Okay, let's move on here to what's pissing me off this week. Okay, this is pissing me off, but it's also a great concern. Now, we fly to Australia, or we start the journey to Australia, since it's going to be a couple of flights. We fly to Vancouver first, that's about 5 hours. Then we have a wait over for about 3 hours before we pick up the plane again and fly to Melbourne, Australia. And I think that flight to Melbourne is about 16 hours. So it's going to be a long couple of days. In fact, we lose a day because of going across the international date line and the whole bit. We start out on a Friday. We end up there on a Sunday. Saturday has disappeared. It's weird. It's time travel. Kind of a thing. So, what I'm concerned about is the fact that I'm going to be out of the country for 5 weeks, which means I will be away from my mother. And you know that I am the principal caregiver for my mother. Now, I have a sister, and she lives very close to my mother, and she does her thing with my mother too. So not to belittle what my sister does, she's a co-caregiver as well. So she'll be there, except for the last 5 days of our trip. Those last 5 days, my sister leaves for Mexico for a vacation for 2 weeks. So we have this overlap where neither one of us are in the country at the same time, and that's why I am worried. Now, I have set up some things to, check in on my mother. She has a subscription to something called Lifeline. They're the people, I've fallen and I can't get up kind of a thing. She wears a monitor. So if she falls or whatever and she can't get up, then that monitor should go off automatically, or she can push the button and they call through a loudspeaker that's hooked up to her phone and ask her if she's okay. And they will they usually call my sister first, who goes over and picks her up, or then they call me if they can't get a hold of her. And if they can't get a hold of either one of us, then that's when they call EMS. Well, to date, we have not had to have EMS there. My mother has fallen several times, has not hurt herself, but she can't get back up because she doesn't get much exercise, not at all. She has trouble walking, and the muscles in her legs have atrophied. And so they just don't support her. And if she falls, she really can't get back up. So what to do? Anyways, I have Lifeline calling her twice a day in those 5 days when both my sister and I are out of the country to check on her. One at 11 o'clock in the morning, one at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, this is a service that we're paying extra for, of course. There's nothing free in this world. but it's not that expensive, about $1.50 a call. And there's an administration charge for the first time that you set this up for about $15. So basically it's costing about $33 with the tax for 5 days. So that's not horrible. You know, it's some peace of mind. But in the meantime, they're only on a phone line. They're checking on her to see if she can get up, if she's hurt herself. We need to put another number, contact on that. So we've put Walter's sister on it, but his sister doesn't know my mother that well. And in my way of thinking, it's kind of unfair to burden her with my family's problems. Jesse says it isn't a problem, but, you know, it is. Plus, Jesse would not really be able to get my mother probably back up because there's a trick to it. When elderly people fall, they are dead weight. I went through this with my father. My father was over 200 pounds. He was built like me, basically. Very stocky man. And when he fell and he couldn't get back up, there was no way my mother could lift him. And it took Walter and I both to try and get him up. But he was completely a dead weight. He wouldn't help himself. He couldn't support his own weight, all that kind of stuff. And basically that's what my mother is like as well. Now, she's not as big as my father, but it's just, you know, it's basically dead weight. So it's very difficult for us to get her up, let alone my sister-in-law. So really, she's there to be informed if there's been a problem. I have instructed the Lifeline people to call EMS to pick my mother up for those 5 days. They know what they're doing. They'll also check her to make sure she's not hurt. But what I'm really afraid of is if my mother does get hurt and they have to take her to the hospital. Our hospital system in this country, although you hear other countries talk about how much better it is than in their country, and I guess it is, but it still sucks. My mother could be laying on a gurney for 3 days in a hallway with or without a light sheet on top of her, because hospitals are overrun. You know, I can do a whole thing about the medical system in this country and how bad it is and whatnot. And I'm not going to, but my mother would be disoriented, to say the least. She wouldn't know what she's able to do or not do. I have power of attorney. I don't know what to do, but I won't be there to do it. So this is in the back of my mind as I go off on this vacation. Now, the thing is, I know my sister's probably a little pissed with me because our vacations are overlapping. I planned mine first, but that's neither here nor there. She has every right to have a vacation as well. So, you know, I'm trying to put things in place that will compensate as best can. I've got some of my mother's friends. See, her friends are all older than she is, so there's no way that they could be able to go over and help her out either. But I've got them calling her on various days, just sort of check-ins and whatnot. And I've told my mother, and I'm making the point over and over again, that, Mom, as much as I'd want to get home to help you, and I will, it's going to take 2 days. I just can't hop on a flight and be there in hours. It's not going to happen. So, you know, basically, don't fall. I wish there was some sort of service that I could get that would come in and basically babysit my mother, in a sense. I looked into some of this some time ago, and they didn't want to do it that way. They want a contract where they come in on a regular basis for several hours, several times a week, basically sit there and talk to her. They don't do anything else, like a little light housework, a little laundry. They don't do that. And they're expensive. Like what I was looking at, or what they were suggesting, was going to cost $500 a month. I can't afford that, and neither can my mother. And also, what are we paying for? They're not going to do anything except sit there and stare at her. Now, I had a service like that come in when my father was alive but bedridden, and my mother needed some relief from that. So once a week, I had someone come in for about 3 hours, and they talked to my dad. played cards with them occasionally or whatnot, but that's all they did. They didn't do anything else. She was a very nice lady that came in. My father seemed to enjoy her company, so that was one thing. But, you know, it's not what I'm looking for. So what I'm pissed off about, because all these things are going through my mind right now, is the lack of services out there to help with the elderly. I don't know what to do with my mother. Like, if my mother became bedridden, I'm no nurse. I don't know what to do. I can barely look after myself in situations like that, let alone my mother. I know we have something called the CCAC, completely useless organization. It's a government agency. You have to go through them if you want to get on a waiting list for a nursing home. And when I come back from Australia, I'm going to have to be very forceful with them. Last time they interviewed my mother on the phone. Of course, my mother, when you talk to her on the phone, oh, everything is fine, dear, not a problem. And they ask her some key questions like, how often are you falling? Oh, I don't fall very often. Are you cooking your own meals? Oh, yes, I manage that. I can do my own life. Well, yeah, she is managing that to a point, but it's not good, and it's getting worse. So I'm going to have to fight with the CCAC. I had a fight with them with my father. Basically, they wouldn't even put him in a nursing home until he was basically on death's doorstep. That's how they operate. They are a horrible organization in this country. They need to be completely revamped. They have no compassion. They don't care. I know it's a government-funded thing. I know there are all kinds of problems and things like that on both ends. It's a difficult job to be in, but they suck. Quite frankly, they suck. And if any of you out there have ever dealt with the CCAC, then you probably know what I mean. And if any of you work for the CCAC, get a new job. You might not suck, but the CCAC sucks. So anyways, that was a bit of a tangent. So anyways, what I'm pissed off about is that in our country, we don't do anything for the elderly. And in this day and age, it's not like back 100 years ago where it was just expected. Grandma and grandpa moved with the family. It was an extended family and everybody looked after everybody. It's not that way anymore. That's just, whether it's good or whether that's bad, I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact is, I can't look after my mother. Bottom line, I need help. Everything costs a lot of money. I already pay a lot of money in my taxes to support our healthcare system and all that kind of stuff. Why do I have to spend more? We're a heavily taxed country for all of this, and we pay more and more and get less and less for the money. So, I don't know if anybody knows who lives in North America or something, especially if you live in Canada, if you know of something that would help with this situation, I'm all ears, because I've looked and I can't find anything that is of any use. Like CCAC will send somebody for an hour every other day or something to, help them get dressed in the morning or put to bed at night. But that's not what I'm looking for. So I am looking into getting my mother someone that will come in and clean her apartment. Walter and I have been doing that off and on. It's not like it's a pigsty or anything like that. My mother does a little light housekeeping too, but really it's wherever she can reach from the couch with her duster. That's about it. But more so, if I had somebody that came in on a regular basis, they would get to know my mother would get to know them, and it would be somewhat social. Also, it might be nice if this person, ideally, if this situation happens again where both my sister and I are not available, it might be somebody we could call upon to, drop in on my mom or whatever, that kind of thing. Now, my sister knows of somebody that she thinks might fit this bill, and she's going to be talking to this lady, and so that's what I'm looking into now, and we'll see how that works. But anyways, bottom line of why this is all bothering me is because I'm about to go away for 5 weeks. I've been looking forward to this trip. I want to have a good time, but if in the back of your mind, every waking moment you're thinking about home, about my mother and the whole bit, that's going to interfere with having a good time. It makes me feel guilty that I'm doing this, for one thing. I know I have to go on with my life as well. I know all these kind of things, but it doesn't make any of it any easier. So I'm just hoping and praying that everything will be fine for my mom, that there'll be no problems. My sister will have a copy of where we're staying at various stages of our trip, so if she needs to get a call to me, she can call those places because our cell phones won't work over there. Everybody I know has got a copy of our itinerary so they can get a hold of us. But as I said, I'm on the other side of the world. It's just not going to be easy in a hop, skip, and a jump in a heartbeat to get home to my mom. So send positive thoughts to my mother, please, while I'm away, and so all will be well. It should be. I have to have faith in that. Okay, that's kind of depressing. Let's move on. So, product review. Okay, so last week I was talking about how little under the sun is new at Creativation. And I talked about We Are Memory Keepers, the people who are famous for their punch boards, you know, that makes the envelopes, banners, all that kind of stuff, and I have most of them. But I did mention also, too, that they've got a couple of new ones out there that really are scratching to the bottom of the barrel. Well, before Creativation happened, I saw that they had this little device, and so I ordered it. Now, what does it do? It cuts squares and rectangles. Okay, what are you going to do with it? Well, I've done a whole product review of this, and the link is below, so you can check that out. But essentially, I got it because I sometimes like to do mosaics as backgrounds for art journal pages or scrapbooking pages, things like that. So I got that, and this was just thrown together very quickly, and I talked more about this in the product review video. But you can see, you can adjust the sizes, and it could be a lot of fun. And I like to do that sometimes to pictures. Again, thrown together very quickly, but you see, you get the idea of this kind of thing. So I bought it. It works very well. It will cut a rectangle as large as 4 by 3 or 3 by 4, depends on which way you turn it. It's very simplistic in the way that it works. You have these guides, you just match them up with the numbers for the size and punch, and they come out very nice. If you do ATC cards, you can make a whole bunch of ATC cards with this in minutes. So it would work well for that as well. So I don't regret getting this. How many times I will use it? Probably not a lot. I don't do mosaics every day. But the only problem with it is the price point. It costs me almost $60 Canadian. In the States, it's a lot cheaper. I think it retails for $29.99 or $34.99, something like that in American dollars. But by the time I got it here, and I ordered it through my local scrapbooking store, the exchange rate, the whole bit, it was almost $60. So, and most of their punch boards run around that price range. So yeah, not a cheap toy, but I've got one. So there we go. Okay, what else? Oh, little white gloves. No, I am not going out to a cotillion or something like that. Fancy dinner. These are quilting, free motion quilting gloves. The fingers on these have little rubber kind of silicone-y kind of stuff, so you can grip your quilt easier because you aren't using your feed dogs on it. You're being the feed dog. You're pushing it all through and whatnot, and these help you get a good grip on it. Now, I was using these gloves yesterday when I was working on that quilt that's now falling off the wall to do stitch in the ditch technique of quilting, and they are effective, these gloves. They weren't expensive. They were about $12. So well worth the investment for that kind of thing. And let's see. Oh yeah, the other stuff that's kind of new is my whatever videos. The whatever videos are simply that. They are whatever's grabbing me at that time, and I do a little short 5 to 7 minute video. I've done 3 to date, and I was asking people on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday how they liked them, and I've been getting some positive comments about those kind of things. So I think I will continue to do some of those. And as I said, they're just about whatever's grabbing me at the time. Just little quickies. So that's new. Now, other new segment, as you know, last week, I started one on about some books. I have a ton of books on my bookshelf that you can't see that's over here. And the stuff that I've collected over the years about scrapbooking and about all kinds of crafts and things like that. I don't look at them much anymore, and part of the reason for that is it's just very easy to type in what you're looking for on YouTube and bang, you get a whole video tutorial on it. But some of these are really, really good for ideas. So the one I want to feature this week is Creative Foundations 40 Scrapbook and Mixed Media Techniques to Build Your Artistic Toolbox. And this book is actually by Vicki Boutin. Now, until I discovered her glaze a few months ago, I didn't know who Vicki Boutin was. And she's Canadian, and she's been doing workshops for years and things, and I didn't even realize I had one of her books. So this was a surprise, and I watch her videos, and I have reviewed her channel. And this is full of a lot of ideas, and it's a lot of things that I haven't thought about in a long time. So it's a good reminder of some techniques that I may have used at one time, and then, new ones replace that, and to go back and take a look at this kind of stuff. So if you're looking for inspiration and you want it from a Canadian and somebody who has their own line of products, and I think her products are very good, then you might want to find this book. Now, I looked on Amazon, and I've put the link below, and I did find it there. The original cost of this book, what's it say? In Canadian dollars, it was $25.99. American, it was $24.99. But I saw it as low as about $5 on Amazon. Now, you know how Amazon, and I'm talking about Amazon.ca, but I'm sure it's on Amazon.com as well. You know how they have third-party sellers on there, and sometimes they have used books. And I have bought some things that way that are used, and I've never been disappointed. Most of them look like they've never been even opened, and a lot cheaper. So, in this day of electronic text and everything, if you're looking for a good book, why not go for a used copy of this if you can get it? So, like I said, the link is below, and this is a very good book, excellent book. I'm going to leave it out because I'm going to go through it again and mark some pages of things that I want to try. So many things to do, so little time to do them in. So speaking of inspiration, a couple of things that I were gleaned from YouTube. One of them I saw, I'm not sure if it was Nina Rubino or Bella Rose, were using a product called glass bead gel. Now this is basically matte medium with little tiny glass beads in it. So it gives texture, but you can colorize it. You can run it through a stencil, all kinds of things. Now I have a jar of this. I've had it for a long time, and I don't think I've ever really used it on anything. So I'm going to get that out and give a play with that at some point again. And another thing that I saw, it was sponging embossing ink through a stencil and then adding embossing powder and melting it. Now, usually when we do embossing, that kind of embossing, we use our Versamark or what they call it, Top Boss ink or anything, an embossing ink. It's basically a glue. And we, stamp an image with that, sprinkle on our embossing powder, knock off the excess, and then melt it all down. Okay. But what about using it through a stencil? So it's the same principle, except with the stencil, you're just taking a cosmetic sponge or whatever, and you're loading it up with the Versamark ink or the gluey kind of stuff, and you're just dabbing it through your stencil and then taking the stencil off and putting the embossing powder on. So that gives a whole new potential to using stencils. So I thought, yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. Now, that's not really a new idea. Somewhere in the back of my head, I have seen that idea before. But again, just like this book, I needed my memory jogged because there's so many techniques. And sometimes they just don't stay with me. Okay, so that's 2 inspirational ideas for this week you might want to try. So, events in the past week. Well, the big event of the week was Walter's 60th birthday. He hasn't been looking forward to this, but, what's the alternative? Age happens. It's as simple as that. So he's a difficult person to buy things for, so am I, because if we want it, we buy it for ourselves. So I ended up getting him a whole pile of gift certificates from various places. Canadian Tire, because he likes Canadian Tire, Mark's Work Warehouse, because they have men's clothes that we can wear, and iTunes. And put them all into a funny card I found, and then we usually take each other out for dinner. And again, even that is a problem because we've been everywhere. Going out for dinner, we used to go out a lot for dinner, and then after a while we got tired of that. So we spend more time, experimenting with food in our own house than going out for dinner. But I asked him where he wanted to go. I figured we'd end up at the Keg because it's a popular spot. It's usually consistent, it's good, and it's in our area. But he decided instead he wanted to go to downtown Oshawa to an Italian restaurant there that's called Avante's. Now, we've been to Avante's before, and it's always very good. It's very reasonable in price. The decor is nice, service is good, so it's a good spot. And so we did, and we had a really nice meal. We took our time with the meal. We eat incredibly fast, and in a lot of these restaurants, they serve you very fast because they have that team serving kind of thing. Bang, there's your salad. Rip that out of your hand. Here comes your main course. Rip that out of your hand. Here comes your coffee. Here's your bill. Bye-bye. And so we purposely order in stages. So we started off, we had a nice cocktail, martini, not a real martini. They call them martinis, but they're those flavored ones, and they were quite nice. We don't often get a cocktail when we go out for dinner, but special occasions, so I thought we should. We had they call it a romaine salad. It's a Caesar salad, but actually their dressing is really good that's on it, and they're huge. They're very, very huge. So, and yeah, when I do this, that's what I mean. That's how big they are. So we split one. They have really nice bread that they bring to you, and you can get as much of that as you want. And then we both had the lasagna, and that was very good. And we finished off with some, I can never say it right, tiramisu. That's it, tiramisu, which is an Italian dessert. It's lady fingers that have been soaked in sort of a coffee liqueur kind of thing, and there's whipped cream and all kinds of stuff on it. It's about 3 million calories, and it's delicious. And cappuccinos. So it was a nice dinner, and we were able to, as we did, until we were finished one course, we wouldn't order the next one until that was done. And so that, made it a little bit more enjoyable and relaxing evening. So I guess he enjoyed that. Too late now. So that was his big 60th. And that was about it in the past week. So coming up, of course, Friday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we fly off to Vancouver, and then from Vancouver to Melbourne. And I hope everything goes well with the flight, and I hope I don't have some big drooling slob sitting next to me whose head keeps hitting my shoulder as they pass out. Yeah, I'm speaking from experience. And I hope there are not a bunch of screaming children on there, because that's when I really want to open a window and just stuff the little suckers right out. Bye-bye, baby. Yes, I said that, and I mean it. And, well, anyways, the adventure will begin. So, got to get packed. Got to get a few things organized around the house. Got to finish that quilt before I go. So, lots happening this week. So, this will be my final vlog until we're in Australia. And as I said, depending on the technology that we have available to us when we're there, will depend on what I'm able to put up on YouTube. So I am going to try to vlog again at least once a week. The vlogs will probably be a little shorter, and of course there'll be pieces that I won't have available, like I won't be reviewing products and things like that unless I buy something over there, and we'll see how that goes. So just bear with me for those 5 weeks, and hit the notification bell if you're interested, because you'll never know when I'm going to put these up, because I'm not going to know. So anyways, I hope you have a good week, and next time I'm talking to you, we'll probably be from someplace in sunny, warm, because it's summer, Australia. So here's to you, mate. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.